download sample data sets and kind of explore all the different data that is uniquely available on Vana. So I'll walk through kind of how to download a file and then like what you can do with it too. Let's actually start with some of the sleep data. So this is a data set from wearables, from sleep.fun. So I'll go ahead and download it. Great, so I'm downloading the database file. Something you'll notice is that if you just try to open the file directly, your computer probably won't, it might not know how to work with a database file. So if you don't have like something installed, so you can just drop it into ChatGPT to write the SQL query that you need, and then be able to run some analysis on the data. And note this is a sample file, so it contains just a small amount of data. The overall data set contains 4,200 users, but this probably contains something like 10 users worth of data, but it's enough that you can kind of get some early insights and craft your query and secure compute jobs so then you can run it on the full data set. So I'll ask, here is some data on sleep patterns. And I'll actually paste in maybe some of this context too. Here we go. And then I will also add, I want to run some analysis on what's correlated with getting the best sleep. Also note this is a sample data set and the full data set contains 4,200 data contributors, users who contributed their data. Cool. So I've given it this database and then it's kind of going in and it's analyzing the data. So you'll see it's kind of writing Python code to actually look at the data. It's kind of figuring out what's the structure of this data set. We can look at some of it here. It's kind of big, so I'll just zoom in. So the data set contains heart rate details, kind of heart rate summaries, how much someone is kind of breathing as they sleep, oxygen saturation, even has data on snoring and different asleep periods, right? And often this data kind of only available for maybe one user, right? And so what is possible with these pooled data sets is you can really run strong analysis for kind of understanding longevity, for understanding what makes the best sleep, because you have access to the data across a large set of users. So, okay, here it looks like it's in the code. Okay, it's telling me that the strongest predictors of sleep quality are the readiness score and the recovery level. I'm just going to check to make sure that it actually, let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. I was just seeing what it actually did. So it looks like there is kind of some positive correlation between these two things and sleep. Interesting. So it's kind of saying that surprisingly, like snoring doesn't seem that correlated in particular, and maybe it's very weak positive correlation. A very weak positive correlation with snoring is interesting. How do you interpret that? I would have expected it to be kind of the opposite. So yeah, some possible explanations. Snoring might just not always mean poor sleep. It also could be that it's a very small sample, right? And when you run this on the full data set, you might not be able to, you might see a different result. But it also says maybe we control for duration. So I might actually see if they can do that. Can you control for duration with the sample data set? Okay, so while it runs there, I want to look at one other data set. The Spotify data set is interesting because usually it's really tough to get access to Spotify data. And so what Unwrapped, the Spotify data DAO, has done is kind of pooled this data from kind of what people are listening to, what kinds of artists and what kinds of genres people are listening to and how long they're listening. And so I'll download this data set as well. This is so that just putting this in, so there's some kind of contact here. And by the way, if you are writing a query data set and then you want the full data set, you can click contact us and then get in touch to kind of get walk through the steps of being able to actually query the full data. Okay, so, I had been running this on sleep. None of these things are statistically significant, at least with a small sample data set. So it seems like snoring is not like a meaningful predictor of sleep efficiency, but I think there's still kind of maybe more to listen to. But the earlier weak positive correlation was driven by the fact that snorers spend more time in bed / asleep, which I guess in this case was kind of improving some of the efficiency. But once you control for that, you find out that actually snoring isn't really improving or worsening the efficiency. So because you have all these different data points, you're able to kind of get all of that context. Okay, so now quickly looking at some of the Spotify data, let's ask, what genres do people who listen to the most music listen to? Also, if I'm working on an AI music model, which genres are most important for me to focus on nailing based on this Spotify data? And then I'll also, by the way, this is a sample data set. The full data set contains data from 18,000 users. Oh. And then I also am just going to paste in this context. You can probably figure it out, but always better. Okay, so now it's analyzing the data, kind of pulling in the database, reading that in. We can see kind of there's all these user listening stats and the sort of music that they're listening to that we're getting to look at now. Cool. So the most active listeners seem to be listening to pop and R&B, and then they seem to, I guess, be listening to crossover genres, a bunch of different genres. In terms of kind of looking at, if I were building an AI music model, what should I work on getting right first? Looks like kind of nailing pop first with this small sample data set. Now I'm also just kind of curious, what are the genres that people who listen to music listen to? Cool. So here you can see the query. It's getting run. Cool. So it actually looks like pretty much everybody is listening to pop. So let me just say, can you sort the genres by listen time? And I think this is probably too because it's these sample data sets, and if we're running it on the full data set, we might see different results. But I just want to have the code to be able to look at this. So it looks like house punk is like a little less common. And so we're getting to, see that from the data. So this is just kind of how you can use one of these sample data sets, query it using an AI of your choice. And what's special about these data sets is usually if you want to get access to data, well, it's just hard to do. Like maybe you could get access to public data if you build a scraper. You could get access to open source data sets like on Kaggle. But typically the data that lives in walled gardens is pretty much just not available to run analysis on, to train AI models on. And so this is really the first kind of self-serve tool where you can actually get access to that data and start crafting queries and figuring out the insights that you want to be able to get out of the full data set.